this beautiful meal. I'm starving. Let's go.
Okay, so we've got the cream reduced.
Yes.
And if you take a look at these greens, I mean, look how much moisture is still coming out.
Right.
That would make the creamed greens real runny. Okay. So I just squeeze that out. We're gonna add that back to the cream.
Awesome.
And then to doctor up the flavor a little bit and kind of bring it all together, we've got some Full Quiver Farms, which is also Texas-based. Their jalapeno cheese, which they call Neufchâtel. It's basically a fancy word for cream cheese.
Neufchâtel.
And then their garlic and chive. Put that in.
See, there you go. There you go. I heard that.
Why don't you stir that in, Amy?
Okay.
And I tell you what, let's switch burners, because that can sit there. You can make this, you know, I don't know, a couple hours before really, and just leave it there on warm. All those flavors are gonna meld together. Or if you don't want to, because the greens, we just have to do a quick saute like we did. they smell really good.
I'm telling you what, just give me a fork, please.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. That's why I hit them. Is that I don't need to continue to cook them. You don't have to go with Grandma's approach where she simmered the greens for 6 or 8 hours in bacon grease, although I'm a big fan of the bacon grease side, is that you don't have to cook them that long. We can quick cook them now. But let's go back to our steak.
Back to that beef.
I can touch the water because the steak is sitting in water that's medium rare temperature.
Right.
Okay. So I'm gonna pull that out. And now we had a question from Joe in the audience, wanted to know, well, if you don't have a vacuum sealer yet, what are your other options? Well, your other options are that you could absolutely use a freezer bag.
Okay.
The key for using the freezer bag, because it will put air in it, is just as you put the steak in, and then put it into some cold water. And what happens is the water presses the bag closed. So if you're having trouble like getting all the air out of a freezer bag, put it into water and that presses all the air out, and then close the top. Okay?
Another good tip.
Another good tip.
Nice.
All right, so what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna do some searing. So the steak is fully cooked, right? It's medium rare, but it's not pretty on the outside. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna season it. I'll put a little bit of kosher salt, some fresh cracked black pepper.
Okay.
This is a Japanese blend I've used before, sashimi togarashi. That's optional, of course. You guys don't have to use that. And
other
do the
side
same
as
thing
well
for the other side.
Okay.
Now here's the key on a couple little fronts. I want really high heat because I just want a quick sear.
All right.
This is what we're gonna do right before we're ready to serve it or a couple of minutes out.
Okay.
I like searing in a stainless steel pan or a cast iron skillet. But a lot of times people are intimidated about using either one of those because they're worried about the food sticking. Here's the key. Make sure you heat up the pan first. Okay, metal expands, and so we want it kind of spread. We want to make sure that the meat we put in there is at least room temp. If you take it directly out of the refrigerator, when it hits that pan, it's going to cause the metal that had expanded to shrink and grab hold of the meat. And you want to cook with a fairly reasonable amount of oil.
And butter.
You can do butter. Now butter's gonna burn because this is hot right now.
Okay, then we don't want to do butter.
We don't do too much butter now. You can do that at the end.
Okay.
But make sure the oil also gets hot. Here's how we know if the pan's hot enough. Okay, so it's beading up. You see all those little beads in there?
Yeah.
That means it's nice and hot. Okay. Now we're gonna put our oil in. We're gonna let the oil get hot. That's the second key.
Okay.
And then when we put the meat in, I'm gonna swirl it a little bit. And that's gonna make sure that the oil didn't just get pressed out. Because if you slap it down in the pan, the oil goes out from under it, it touches the hot pan, the meat's not that hot, and it causes it to stick, okay? All right, so while that's searing, we're gonna get ready for the sauce, because once that steak is seared, the sauce is gonna be as simple as put a little bit of butter in the pan, and then add some tomatoes, and if you've got time to take your Texas tomatoes, your grape tomatoes, have them and dehydrate them in the oven. These are way better than those sun-dried tomatoes that you had at the grocery store.
How did you do this?
Cut them in half, put them in the oven at 135 degrees for 3 hours. All right, so let's take a look here. See how it didn't stick at all? I'm getting a nice sear. And once we come back, we're gonna be ready to make the brown butter sauce, get that finished, and then put it all on the plate.
And then we can eat?
And then we can eat.
Oh, good food, good meat, good God, let's eat. We'll be right back.